The vessels Scott creates are meant to enrich the experience of storing, serving, and consuming food and drink. The aesthetics reflect a personal sense of place where he lives in rural Minnesota. Scott intends for each piece to be an interactive component in collaboration between maker, user, and environment. Sean earned his BFA from Ohio University and his MFA from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Please welcome Sean Scott.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. I would like for all of us to begin in song. So if you would, put your handles on, spouts up, and please sing along. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle and here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, hear me shout. Just tip me over and pour me out. What a beautiful, beautiful, strong, collective voice we have. Powerful. Ceramic art, like song, has the wonderful ability to bring people together. One form in particular that I believe has an inherent capacity to do so is the teapot. This particular teapot was made in the series of work leading up to NCECA. And when I unloaded it from the kiln, I thought, ooh, gross. The color seemed garish, the proportions were off, and the form seemed tight and deflated. So feeling as though this particular piece was dispensable, I began to use it in the studio in the afternoons, usually with mint tea. And what I soon discovered was that it poured well, the handle was comfortable, the balance and the weight were manageable, and I could access the interior to get the tea in and to clean it out. And it began to grow on me, and it soon became a companion, offering up a bit of warm respite amidst the toiling in a long, cold Minnesota winter. This piece reminded me that understanding and insight, especially with handmade pottery, takes time, use, handling, and a multitude of experiences and perspectives. This pot is from the Svadhyaya tea set, and Svadhyaya is Sanskrit and means self-study or introspection. And it's not so much about the study of my own personal idiosyncrasies, but more about the exploration of the larger sense of self and the essence that unites us as people. The knob is the head, the pot, the body, left unglazed, emphasizing the clay, the ground, the earth. The carved patterns are archetypal vegetation, each leaf a dimensional calligraphic mark that reveals the hand in motion. The process of carving is a physical mantra, a repeated effort of continual focus, meditation in action. The set sits on a tray which has a perforated lid that allows for drainage and collection of any spilled liquid. The tray also gives the set a framework or context for display or the activity of use. The body is subtly squared, referencing our own orientation, front, back, side to side, and the handle has figurative qualities that suggest knuckles, joints, hips, or waist. The set as a whole is about gathering, hospitality, shared experience, and dialogue. My hope is that with use, a deeper understanding develops with the work and also with oneself. This teapot came from the set titled Persistence. The koi has many benevolent associations, one of them being tenacity or perseverance. I might add that this body of work was all based on my own personal mythologies, ideas that I have held dear or which now intrigue me or guide me. Handles and spouts are pinched from very soft clay. The spout is allowed to stiffen before being cut in half, hollowed out, and reassembled. The body of the pot was made with a textured slab constructed upside down in a shallow bowl form. The outline of the scales were slip-trailed, allowed to stiffen, flattened with a brayer, and then burnished. A cream-colored glaze that pools was applied to the textured areas using a bulb syringe. The vent is through the mouth of the fish, and the lid was cut directly from the slab, and a gallery was laid in underneath. A bit of a delicate and tricky process. An unintentional but welcome surprise was discovering the nice relationship between the negative space of the handle and the fish's tail. I didn't intend it. It's not going to happen. It's often when I'm taking images that I see these things that I'm like, that was neat. I intend for the patterns to be both visual and tactile, and use them to help unify the set with a variation on a theme, in this case, scales. Intimacy develops with use, washing, drying, holding, serving, and caring for the work. This is where the art happens, where the maker, user, and object meet in a holistic, collaborative effort. This work is from the Transcendence tea set. And the lotus, up top, is a symbol for spiritual awakening. You may know how the lotus rises each day from the muck to greet the sun. Again, there's the knuckliness in the handle. The lines on the body emanate and frame the lotus, and the bluish glaze is idealized water. The lotus bud, while acting as the knob, is also a sculptural focal point. The negative space of the handle echoes the shape of the blossom, and the points aid in the leverage and grip while pouring. The set as a whole is a reflection of nature or naturalness, similar to a highly cultivated space like a garden or a sacred grotto. I want the finished piece to reflect the sense of care and consideration that occurred during the making process, that it was nurtured and imbued with a sense of specialness. This last piece is titled Moksha Teapot, and moksha is to Hinduism as nirvana is to Buddhism, a release from the cycle of birth and death. The skull for me is also a symbol for the death of the ego or of old ways of being, allowing for growth and transformation. In closing, I want to say this. I believe what our keynote speaker, Winona LaDuke, is saying. And I live about an hour south of her in western Minnesota at the headwaters of the Pomme de Terre River. So, I invite all of you, with your wonderful collective voice, if you want to be on the front lines as water protectors, please feel free to come to our home and use it as a base, a safe house, a staging area for the battle. Miigwech.